time for Cold Hard Sports Talk with your hosts, Ty Gore, Matt Barrett, and Jake Woods.
We are here with our guest. 272 games in the WHL. He's played in the AHL. He's played U Sports. He's played 3 years in the ACAC for the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, currently playing pro out in France. We are joined by Colton Waltz. Colton, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you on. First thing I wanted to get into, you're an Alberta boy. You're from Vermilion. Vermilion, real small town. I believe a little over 2,000 people there. What was it like playing minor out there?
Yeah, tiny town, not much going on there. They got a little college, trade school type stuff. But playing out there, it was great. Tons of ice time. We were always on teams that, as a defenseman, we usually only had 4 or 5 D-men. So I was out there a ton. So I think that allowed me to really develop into what I later was, able to just get a ton of puck touches. The ice was always available, stuff like that. So I guess that's just really where it all began.
And how long did you end up playing for Vermilion before you got to the point where you started to travel to go play for some higher level teams?
Right. So I played in Vermilion until Bantam. So I ended up playing my Pee-wee out in Vermilion, and then that's when most kids kind of look to play at elite level, AAA, AA, stuff like that. So that's when I made the move to Lloydminster minor hockey. Prior to that, I actually wasn't allowed to move to Lloydminster, just for carding reasons. With Alberta minor hockey, they're just not allowed to take on numbers from other places. So Bantam's when I could move to a big club like that, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and you played your Bantam out in Lloydminster, and after that you moved on to play for the Brandon WheatKings in the WHL, where you had a lot of success there. But before going to the WHL, was that always the plan? Like as soon as the WHL was an option, that's where you wanted to go? Was there any ever thoughts of trying American college hockey, or was the route always through the CHL?
Mulled over this for a while. Things went really well in Bantam, so I was fortunate enough I got drafted in the 3rd round, I believe, end of the 3rd round. At first, that's a guy that can go either way. You're not a high draft pick, so you might not get his ton of opportunity. But I was fortunate enough to fall to Brandon, who didn't have any draft picks in the first 2 rounds that year. So I was actually the first draft pick. And but I did think about it. I didn't sign right away or anything like that. I think I waited until Christmas the following year to kind of make that call, But as a young kid, it doesn't just fall on you. My parents are sitting there, looking at the opportunity to have some schooling paid for, whether that's going there, or do you wait and see if you're going to get some sort of scholarship to the States where it was right in front of you, you're going to have some schooling paid for. So, they pushed me a little bit to make that decision, but it's what I wanted to do. And you know what, it's those guys that want to go play pro NHL, that is the fast track for sure. But it wasn't 100% I was going to the WHL by any means. There's definitely some thought that goes into it. And I think nowadays you're seeing a lot of kids put that extra thought into it with the prep schools and kind of seeing what college is all about.
You played a year in Bonnyville and kind of called up a little bit to Brandon. What went into the decision to play there for a year instead of go play AAA? Did Brandon have a say in that, or what kind of goes into something like that?
Yeah, Brandon did have a say in that. So I went to Brandon as a 16-year-old, first year eligibility there, and I was there until about the end of September. I didn't play any games, was sitting in the stands, and finally they called me in one day, and I was told that I was being reassigned. And they said, "Colton, you're going to Bonnyville." Because prior to my camp, I just did a conditioning camp there. I got the okay from Brandon, said, "Hey, can I go do a conditioning camp here? It's close to home." And they said, no problem. So anyways, get reassigned there. And my first reaction was, well, I don't know if they're going to take me. He says, no, that's where you're playing this year. So, okay. So, yeah, it was basically Brandon's decision, and it was great. I developed as a player, and at the end of the year, I was able to get called into Brandon's lineup at the end of the year and going into playoffs, and was able to step in and help the team a little bit. So it definitely helped me build my game. And I'm happy that I got that experience in a little town like Bonnyville, where there's not many other teams to cheer for around there other than us and Lloydminster. It's a big rivalry, so that was awesome.
At what point in your time in the WHL did you really feel like you were acclimated to it? Like, how long did it take before you thought like, okay, I'm a good WHL defenseman?
Okay, yeah, it's funny. My first year, so I get sent down and come up, and I thought, things are going good. When I got called up from Bonnyville, I was like, I can play here next year. Like, seeing myself here. Go back the following year, and our team struggled. We were a bottom feeder that year, and didn't feel good about my game really. Just a 17-year-old guy. I think I had 7 points, something like that. Our team, I think it was the first time in 20 years Brandon didn't make the playoffs. So that was pretty disappointing. But come back 18-year-old year, sorry. And same thing, team's not great, but I think we got ourselves into a playoff spot, kind of a 7-8 type team. And I think end of the year, that's kind of where I started to turn the corner that year. Kind of started to feel comfortable, with the physicality, kind of what my role was going to be on the team. We had some high-end defensemen, so kind of had to find my way there. Coming up in all the way until midget, I always found myself to be more offensive. But then we got guys like Ryan Pulak, and then we had, Ivan Provorov coming through the ranks, and Brandon. So that was where I needed to kind of find my niche. And I found my way as kind of more of a defensive-minded character on the back end. So I think, 18 started to feel good. Then in 19, that's where I probably had my best year as a 19-year-old, and 18 just really set me up for that.
And it was actually your age 18 season where you first got an A on your jersey. What was that like, just being like this league that so many young Canadians look up to from, the time they're 6-7 years old and start going to the games to, play for a franchise like Brandon, be considered an assistant captain?
Yeah. And I think now with so much social media, kids can really see the game more. I know when I was a little guy, WHL in Vermilion, Alberta, you didn't get to see much of it unless you traveled to Red Deer or Saskatoon. So now they're seeing this high-end hockey, and I guess when you're in the heat of the moment and you have an A on your jersey, you take it a little bit for granted in a way. Whereas now looking back, you see how special it is. There's only 3-4 guys on each team every year that get to wear a letter. So yeah, that's great. I guess it just shows I had teammates and management and coaching that felt like I was bringing something to the table that they wanted other players to follow. So I guess that's really encouraging to show that I was an important piece in their mind, just more than just a player, I guess. So a voice or a leader and work ethics, something like that. So yeah, it's very special, and it was an honor always to wear a letter on my jersey for sure.
And in your time in the WHL, do you remember just who the toughest guy to try and defend was? Anyone who even, in his junior years was just kind of showing that they were the real deal?
Yeah, obviously there's a ton of guys coming out of the WHL now that are just crazy skilled. They step into the NHL and they're just huge factors. Just top of my head though, I remember just going into Portland one year, and there was Leipzig and Patan and Chase DeLeo all on the same line, and just tic-tac-toe, just put into a spin cycle constantly. It was probably the just most frustrating game I've ever played in. And then you got guys like Matt Barzell was just so effective, just so fast, and he had eyes in the back of his head behind the back pass. It was just nuts. Guy's so good and sucked to play against. And then obviously then you got guys like Leon Draisaitl. We played them my 19-year-old year. We made it to the final. We played Leon and the stacked Kelowna Rockets. I think they swept us in the final, just soaked us, rinsed us, and Yeah, Draisaitl he's doing 30-foot saucer passes cross ice to Merkley, and Merkley's just burying biscuits left, right, and center. So there's so many good players. And then back end wise, I mean, there's so many offensive defensemen too, like Josh Morrissey, just running the point, Madison Bowie. The list goes on, but those guys are kind of the first guys that come to my mind, especially Draisaitl, being a guy that played in Prince Albert. You know, he's a divisional rival for Brandon, so we've seen him 7 times a year and got sick of him pretty quick.
And going into your last year in the dub, you got traded to Saskatoon. What was just like the thoughts and emotion? This team that you'd spent your entire junior career playing with, did you kind of understand like the franchise aspect of it? Of you trade an overager who, when at that point in their career in junior.
Yeah, so there's a little bit more background actually to that trade. So I believe Kelly McCrimmon at the time, he was with the World Junior team. And I had gone through a little bit of an injury, and we were low in D-man. Provorov was playing for Team Russia, and I had an injury, and we didn't have enough D-man, but they were making me play through this injury, and I was a little bit pissed off. And we kind of came to a point where me and Kelly, we've come past it now. We've talked it out and stuff, but we were just butting heads a little bit. Things weren't going great. I actually had some personal stuff going on, kind of behind the scenes, and so I think just a fresh start somewhere else was best for me. I got to go to a young team. Yeah, we didn't make playoffs, and Brandon ended up going all the way and winning that year against Seattle. But I got to play for a team and be a big piece somewhere else. Yeah, it was a little different. I understand the moves that need to be made. Brandon was shorthanded. They needed some D-man. Things weren't going as good as planned with Brandon that year either, so they needed to bring in some pieces, and they did. And unfortunately, I was on the other end of that. But that's the way hockey goes. It happens all the time, right? So, I mean, I was pumped for some of my teammates too, my ex-teammates on Brandon. Known those guys for so long. I think at that point I might have been the longest tenured player in Brandon, games wise. So I was happy to see them win. But at the same time, it's tough to see as well, right? You want to be that guy raising the trophy, but it all worked out in the end. Everything happens for a reason. It's kind of the way I like to look at it. So.
Is there still a soft spot for Brandon in your heart a little bit when you see them out there in the dub and you're kind of keeping up on all that stuff? Are they kind of the team you root for now?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to choose between them and Saskatoon. I follow both on social media fully, like Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So I do keep up on it. But yeah, Brandon's the place I probably have the most soft spot just because the people that you meet there. My builds were just fantastic. Glenda and Roger Zelmer, they're just the best. And it's just crazy. The last couple of years, just so busy, school, and just haven't had a chance to get back out there, but I need to get back out there. Maybe catch a game one of these years once hockey winds down for myself.
And I know our boy Matty B here is he's a huge Flyers fan. So can you just talk a little bit, Provorov and Nolan Patrick playing with them? What were they like in their junior years?
Yeah, I mean they're elite. Like just get them the puck kind of thing, right? I think Provorov had something crazy like 82 points his last year in junior, and Nolan Patrick was 17 and putting up 100, like just stupid numbers. But no, both great guys that, especially Provorov, just works on his craft all the time. He's out there anytime there's extra ice. Provorov's out there on the ice. But good guys too. There's sometimes you hear like these elite level players going to the NHL, they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, or kind of a side, they can be a dick, kind of known as. But these guys aren't like that. They're just two good guys that just worked hard at their craft. Patty's just a good Winnipeg boy, just likes to have fun, and I don't know, it shows on the ice. Patty's kind of a creative guy on the ice, but you can just see the way Provorov plays. He's just strict, simple guy, but just gets the job done and can just munch minutes like Ryan Suter. It's crazy to watch, knowing that you were, playing with that guy 4 or 5 years ago. crazy.
Yeah, how cool is it to kind of like see those guys, play at the highest level and excel at that level now too?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's just crazy how fast time goes by. You're like, oh, I played with that guy, and now it's 5-6 years ago. You're like, where's the time going? But no, yeah, it's awesome. Awesome to see when it's a good friend, good guy like that. Nothing but the best teammates like that, and it's making the game better. Growing those teams, because you always want your ex teams, junior, you want them to keep growing, and when you produce players like that, more better players are going to want to come there. So it's good on them, and happy to see.
Any other questions about junior boys?
Yeah, I just got one. Looking back, your final 2 years of Brandon, like that team loaded up and down, top 30, top 40 draft picks up and down the board. In the locker room, was there kind of like, what was that like, knowing there's that much talent and that much potential walking into a barn like Saskatoon where you got way more talent than they could dream of at that moment?
Yeah, so you know what, Kelly McCrimmon did a really good job. He never let the boys get too high, that's for sure. If the boys are getting too high, or if one individual was, he'd pull that guy aside, and he'd knock him down a couple of rungs for sure. Krim was the man there. He wore a lot of hats. He was the owner, GM, coach, so he didn't mess around with Krim too much. But no, we knew we were good too. But it made it fun. We never got too carried away. I know, just playing on the other side for a little bit, but just hearing other teams too. Teams hate going to Brandon. It's a shitty drive, and you end up getting 7 spot on you, and all the fans go home happy. Free Smitties for everyone. So I don't know. I don't think we ever got cocky. I mean, I'd say maybe going into the final against Kelowna, we should have won a couple games. I don't think there was any reason for us to get swept. I know they had just an incredible roster as well, but I don't know. Obviously the pieces did get put together. You know how hard it is to win in a league like that. It doesn't happen very often. Brandon's had, like I said, they had a 20-year streak in the playoffs, and I think before they won that year, it might have been 20 plus years since they won. So no, I think it was good. Yeah, like I said, Krim likes to stay on top of the boys, never let them get too high, and but did a good job too when the lows were there. So I think it was a good mix of just personalities.
And then, so at the end of your junior time, you got a little cup of coffee with Bakersfield in the AHL. You got a call up there, actually got an assist in the one game you played. Yeah. What went in? Like, when did you get the call that, Bakersfield was interested? What were you looking at for options at that point?
Yeah. So just kind of rewinding to the start of my 20-year-old year, I got invited to the Edmonton Oilers rookie camp. So I got to fly out, got through all the fitness tests, and then we flew out to Kelowna and Penticton, and we played in the Young Stars tournament, which includes Winnipeg, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, just the rookie squads. So I got to do that, and that was just a great experience, playing against some top level guys. And it was the year that Connor McDavid got drafted to the Oilers, so that was just nuts. Stepped on for practice the first day, and there's just 1,000 cameras in the rink, so that was pretty crazy. But so that's kind of where I guess the relationship started with the organization. And then with Saskatoon, we didn't make the playoffs that year. So it's actually funny. I was over at a teammate's house, Nick Zajac, and all of a sudden I slept over at his house that night because the season ended, kind of a little mini bender. We went out to the bar and slept over at his place, and all of a sudden I hear his billets just knocking on his door, like, what's going on? And they're looking for me, and I didn't even know they knew I was there. But my coach and GM's trying to get a hold of me. Like, Kelly Buckberger's trying to get a hold of me. What? Just kind of don't know what's going on. But yeah, Bakersfield's trying to get me to come up. So there's a couple East Coast teams that were kind of in the mix, like but you get a call to the AHL, you're not going to pass that up. So yeah, I just got all my shit together in the next 2 days and zipped down to Bakersfield. I think I spent 3 weeks to a month there. I only got into the one game. I guess Bakersfield just got into some injury, making a playoff push, and they had some key pieces up with the Oilers, and the Oilers didn't want to let them go either because they were kind of on the fringe that year. So yeah, I got lucky. And I got thrown in a game against San Diego. I think it was my first or second shift. Just ozone draw, just got a shot through, and you got some nasty players like Slepyshev just depositing the biscuit in the back of the net for me. So I got on the score sheet. I think I got a penalty and ended up +1. So I was happy with that. But it was awesome. 3 weeks up there, just being around professionals like that. That's their day job. They just come to the rink, they snap it around for 45, they go home. Just crazy to see where you're coming from junior. Got guys like coming from high school, just out of sorts. They just had an exam and they don't know what's going on. These guys get up, they eat a good breakfast, they get a workout in, they go on the ice, snap the biscuit around, and so it was nice to see that and just kind of get a taste. Unfortunate part about it was when they let me go, they brought down, Reinhardt and Osterley from the Oilers that year. It was one day after the East Coast deadline to set their playoff rosters. So I was a little bit chopped about that, but overall good experience. Got a little money in the pocket and great experience. I thought maybe it would set me up a bit more, but I ended up obviously choosing the schooling route. So everything worked out. It was nice to do.
Now you can say you're a point per game player in the AHL.
Yeah, exactly. a little bit better than Eric Carlson. So
Yeah.
And going into it, like you just said, you decided to go into some schooling. The next year, you went and played for Mount Royal in Canada West in U Sports. Just talk a little bit about the decision-making process there, finding Mount Royal, what stood out there to you, and like just the decision to go to school completely.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of guys coming out of junior, 20-year-olds, there's only 3 per team WHL wise. So most of those guys are battling for the same roster spots available East Coast wise, unless you get, your elite 19-year-olds getting sent down from the AHL. So I kind of looked at those options, but I had 5 years of schooling, saved up via my WHL contract, and that it was just too hard to pass that up. Go get an education. And I talked to some people higher up, know the game, and they just said, like it's gonna be there. So I took their advice and I said, I'm gonna go to school. Talked to half, probably 12 teams maybe U Sport wise, just across the country. And MRU just felt like the best fit at the time. It was kind of nice. I'm 5-hour drive from home, which is a lot closer than Brandon, which is a 10-hour drive, which seems to be the norm for most players. Just going to U Sport, they like to be a little bit closer home after spending 5 away. Yeah, and that just seemed like the best fit. Great program, nice school, not too big. Only I think they cap out at 40 per class, so that was nice. And yeah, they had a young roster on the back end. So that's kind of just everything that factored into my decision. Calgary, great city, so minus the Flames though.
Mount Royal had a really good team that year, and you got to play in the Crowchild Classic, which for those who don't know is University of Calgary versus Mount Royal at the Saddle Dome, kind of for all the marbles. The students show up. It's like a college atmosphere. What was that like to play in that game?
Yeah, that was crazy. I had kind of heard of the Crowchild before. I mean, as a guy playing junior, you're not really just keeping tabs on the U Sport and CIS, I guess it was before I got there. And you kind of hear about it and you're like, oh, well, that's weird. And then anyways, you get to that point and you're like, yeah, well, it's like 15,000, 14,000 going to be in the stands tonight. You're like, holy shit. And usually a normal game, if you're lucky at Flames Community Arena where Mount Royal plays, 200 maybe is that's parents and girlfriends virtually. So going to that is nuts, and it was fun. Like that just makes it so fun, you know, students just screaming for 4 hours, 3 hours. A lot of booze obviously taking place there. That's the biggest factor. I believe at that point they might do it differently now, but the girls' game was always before the guys' game.
Yeah.
So I know some people would come in and grab a seat during the end of the women's game and start hitting the booze, start hitting the sauce, and so by period 2, you had some pretty drunk people, but it was fun. I mean, whenever you can play in front of a crowd like that, fans, it just adds so much to the atmosphere of the game. That's what we all want to play in front of. I know it doesn't happen for every league, but I know those NHL guys right now, they've got to be missing the fans. That's got to be a major factor. But no, is awesome, and I'm glad to keep doing it. And I think there's some really good charity work that goes into that as well, with the Flames donating a lot of money. So yeah, that's great to see. And I know I still keep in touch with some guys on the team, and it's just the same every year, just crazy, and looks like a ton of fun still.
Well, I think the year you played, that was a game that went into double overtime, I believe, eh?
It definitely went to overtime. I can't remember if it went to double, but yeah, we lost by 1 goal, I believe. I think the Dinos came in. Not to mention, Dinos had horrible jerseys on that night.
Yep.
Want to make that known to everyone. Yeah, I think we lost by 1, but it went to overtime. I think over the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 3 or 4 times it's been to overtime. So that was fun. It just added to the whole experience. It's always nice when you get to play in an NHL rink. It's a blast.
And after that season, you played at Mount Royal, and then you opted to switch to the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology in the Alberta College League. What caused that decision? What made you want to switch?
So basically, my whole decision on that, it really didn't have anything to do hockey-wise. That was all just academic. As a player at Mount Royal, I was enrolled in business. Got through a year of business, and honestly just didn't really love it. Just didn't really see myself doing it. I looked at other options in the school, but like I said, not a huge school, so just nothing really spoke to me or stuck out as a program to take. So I started the search around, and then I got thinking. I said, well, if I switch to another U Sports school, I have to redshirt for a year, and I just really didn't want to take a year off hockey at that point. But I know Nait just has, even when I was a young kid, you hear Nait, 2 hours away in Edmonton. Some people that played there in the past. A great track record. Obviously, Perry Pern, big name in the NHL, coach. So yeah, I found a program that, stuck out. I ended up enrolling in civil engineer tech. I didn't actually finish civil eng, but yeah, that's basically the whole decision. And the fact that they had a program I wanted to take, and I wasn't going to have to sit out hockey for a year. So, but it worked out for the better anyways, I think so.
And your decision to go to Nait actually leads to something funny happening for us. So for anyone who doesn't know, Matty B did play-by-play while taking his schooling out in Mount Royal, and had done play-by-play for your season there. Then 2 years later, your first season as captain with the Nait Ooks, I was taking my schooling there, and I did play-by-play for you there. So we believe we've done some timeline math, and you might be the only player in the world who both of us have done play-by-play for.
Yeah.
So that's something that means nothing to everyone in the world, but means a lot to us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the link.
Exactly.
That's nice to see.
So just talk about your time at Nait. What stood out about that team for you? What was it like playing in the Nait arena? That's an arena I know.
Barn, yeah.
A lot of people in Edmonton like playing some like minor league games there, just like the brick house and everything. It just felt like a cool environment there. So yeah, just time at Nait.
Yeah, so Nait was great. Obviously, we were always able to ice just very, very strong squads within that league. And I mean, we'll never know, but I think we would be competing with mid to bottom range teams in the U Sport League on a yearly basis. But no, it was great. For me, I got to step in my first year there. I think I was given an A. So I stepped in as just kind of a leading role right away. Didn't really know what to expect hockey-wise, technically dropping down a level. But there's some good players in that league. I know the depth's not always there, but there's some really good players in that league who have chosen to be there via schooling, or maybe they didn't quite have the grades in high school, stuff like that. So I really enjoyed my time at Nait. Just when you have a strong team like that, you have such a tight-knit group. So that's what we had for the 3 years I was there. We were always very tight, hanging out with each other whenever we could. So, and I think Nate's got a bit of a track record. I think you look at Alberta schools moving guys onto pro hockey. I mean, there's obviously your U of A's, your Mount Royals, your U of C's, but Nate's easily probably number 4, I would say, at least on that list for moving guys onto pro hockey with pro hockey games played. So it's not a bad decision for anyone to go there. And you know what? Not every degree's not for everyone. So there's a lot of options to look at for players.
Was there any history with players? Like there was a couple guys on that team who were on the Oil Kings Memorial Cup championship team, like Brandon Ralph. Did you have any history with these guys going back to the dub?
Not anything serious. I mean, I played against Ty Stanton, basically my whole life, and then we were all of a sudden teammates. And I remember a couple times, kind of getting into it with them in the Western League. But I think hockey guys are funny. They'll hold grudge on the ice if you're on the other squad, but as soon as you're teammates, usually get past it pretty quick. I was pretty good for that. I know some ladies might hold on to that a little longer, but no, it's good. Ralphie, I actually ended up living with Ralphie my second year. I lived at his place, and he's a great guy, and I have a lot of connections there with him. I'm good friends with Brandon WheatKing. He's also from Vermilion, Alberta, and currently on Montreal's farm team. So a little bit of a connection there. And yeah, I don't know. I remember I played Jake McKidiak probably since I was, 8 years old. And he's still the biggest pest in the side that he can be possibly to anyone. So I wasn't surprised when I saw that. I knew what I was getting myself into there. But no, I don't think anything was too serious. Anyways, I'm sure maybe they would say a little bit different about me. I know how I played when I was in the Western League. As I'm not afraid to give you a little cross check in the back, that's for sure. But no, it was good. We had a tight knit group, and everyone got along really well. It was great.
And while you were at Nait, I guess for those who don't know, if somehow you don't know, Edmonton versus Calgary is a huge rivalry in any sport and any competition. And ACAC is no exception, as just being a student as well as working for the Ooks. The Nait versus Sake games, the fans were always hostile. It was intense. What were those games like as a player?
Yeah, those are the best games to be in. I mean, when there's a little extra riding on it, no matter what that little extra is, in this case, bragging rights. It's fun. And funny story, I'm now living over in France in Strasbourg, just across the pond there. And my roommate, I'm here for 3 weeks. My roommate, Kevin Massey from the Sage Trojans. Now been living together since September. So it's funny, like you guys said, hockey's a small world. But yeah, those games were awesome, just intense. You know that there's going to be 4 or 5 huge hits coming through the neutral zone. You're going to get slashed and hacked and whacked and anything, right? Especially in the ACAC, sometimes there are some prison rules in that league, so you could almost get away with murder. It was good. It's so much fun, and when you can get some extra fans in the stands, that makes a huge difference. And you're playing 8:00 at night in Clairview Arena against Concordia. It's not always the most stimulating game for fans and for the players. So when you can get a little extra on the line like that, that makes everyone just more motivated to go out there, give it their all.
Was the rivalry any different with Grant McEwen when they were still in ACAC?
Yeah, McEwen was funny. I think we won the lion's share, I'd say, in regular season. We always kind of had their number in regular season. Just 2 years I was there in the finals, anyways. Just couldn't pull together for whatever reason. But yeah, those were great games too. I mean, I felt like regular season play though. I feel like us and Sate had better matchups. More comparable than, even though Sate usually ended up fourth in the standings. For whatever reason, we just had better battles than us and McEwen in regular season, I felt like. But I don't know if that dates even further back to when I was there, or if that's just kind of how it worked out when I was there. But obviously the playoffs are huge, and when you got two Edmonton schools going at it, there's just so many more people that can come and watch the game. So that was nice to have 300 people in the stands or whatever it was. That doesn't sound like a lot to most people, but in a college setting, that is a lot of players. Doesn't matter if that's U Sport or ACAC. That's a lot of fans. Coming into the rink. So it's fun. It's fun. That makes it more fun for everyone. The fans and everyone, and it came out with a good product, good hockey. That's I think fun to watch for the fans. So.
Just playing in ACAC, is there anyone just off the top of your head who stood out as like just being difficult to defend, or like who are in ACAC and you're like, man, like this guy's legit?
Yeah, I mean, over the course of my 3 years, there's a few guys that top of my head. We got just a couple guys on McEwen, like Cam Goddess. Guy, I think he was a captain there at the end of his career, and he just works hard. He'll just work hard, and it gets annoying. I know I like to think that I'm a pretty hard worker, and I think most of my coaches and teammates would agree. But Cam's just top level, works hard. He doesn't quit. I mean, obviously we had some pretty good players come through Nait that I'm sure other defensemen would say are hard to defend. I've never had to, but there's been a handful of guys, Sate and Red Deer that are just crafty. You had like Ty Mappin. He had a couple good years in the ACAC. Just a crafty player, was able to, set guys up. The Thudium brothers in Red Deer as well, just use speed. For those that don't know, Red Deer has an Olympic-sized barn, and it feels even bigger than an Olympic-sized barn. It's massive. So those Thudium brothers, fast, were able to just wheel around that rink. And then you got some guys like Eric Heinke in Sate, who just a threat coming off the wing just because he shoots the puck so well. But like I said, yeah, there's some good top end players in the league. It just, it gets overlooked a little bit because the depth's just not there. And you get a majority of players probably coming from, what they call tier 2 junior A, versus the U Sport, which is fielding teams that are majority from the WHL. So I think it gets a little bit overlooked in that regard.
And just talking about like the top players again, you had one on your team for your time there. Jake McKidiak was for his entire tenure there, just one of the best, most offensive players in the league. Just what was he like at practice? Was he like, you mentioned like sometimes he could be a bit of a pest. Like, is he like that all the time at practice? Is he just turning on for games?
Yeah, no, I don't think Jake was ever had to do that in practice. I mean, you're going out there with 20 of your best friends. It's not really necessary unless something provokes him, which could happen. But no, Jake, even in my time just at Nait, I think Jake had a nice progression. I mean, points were always coming, but just as a player and a teammate, I saw a really nice progression with Jake. How he came in and he ended up being one of the hardest workers on the team by the time he was out the door. When he graduated on. So yeah, like obviously very crafty. It was nice for me on the power play. I just get it to the half wall and Jake will do something a lot of the time. But you know what? His pestiness was just another asset to us. yeah, sometimes there were some penalties, but that just added to how frustrating he was, because he could go out there and he could stick you in the back of the leg and laugh at you. And then the next shift, he could go out there and he could, have a nasty toe drag, backhand, shelf goal. And you couldn't say anything to him because he's going to have a remark back to you in, less than half a second. That's just going to be a dagger to the heart. So, yeah, I could see how frustrating he would be. I know I'd be frustrated to play against him. But no, obviously just absurd numbers in the league. But and it was nice. I think this summer the alumni actually kind of they gave him a jersey and kind of an all-time leading Nait points and scoring leader type thing. So that was nice that we were able to get together this summer and just do that for him.
Was he kind of like almost like Brad Marchand in a way, where he'd piss you off 1 minute and then score the next?
That's pretty comparable, I think. That's a good comparison. That and a little bit of mix with Sean Avery even in there. The guy's mouth's moving a million miles an hour, and he'll get in your ear, but he'll make you pay on the score sheet too. So I'm sure Marchand and him would be good buddies.
Anything else about his time in college, boys, before we move on?
No, I'm good.
No.
Alrighty. So then you finished up your time at Nait, and like you mentioned earlier, you're currently in Strasbourg in France. What were the options? Like you said, you went to Nait, and when you were going to school, it wasn't like, you're just getting a job to end your hockey career. The idea was still playing pro one day. What were the options coming out of Nait? What made you choose France? Was it like a tough decision to decide to go overseas to play your pro?
Yeah, and I think just you kind of touched on it there in the question. A lot of guys moving out of junior into college, there's a lot of different motivation to keep playing, whether it's just purely, I'm going to get a little bit of scholarship money. I'm going to go to class, get my degree. Some guys are, like me, and they're like, I want to go play pro. But, life starts happening, and, it's those 4 or 5 years you're in school. It's really easy to lose that motivation, I think. So, I wish-wash back and forth, things happen. I had a couple injuries at Nait. I was like, I don't know. And last year went really well. I just said, this is my last year. I'm just going to go hard and see what happens. And I was able to, put up some points. Our team won a ton of games. And unfortunately, COVID hit. I think that was the best team we were going to be icing for the playoffs that year, my 3 years there. But unfortunately, COVID hit, and it's stuck around, and it made things really weird going into the off season. I had a bit of an injury to deal with. I had a sports hernia, so I was kind of on the shelf. But I had some guys working for me, kind of working the phones, networking, and there's always the option to go to the East Coast, which was kind of the plan as soon as Nate's season ended. A couple of guys on our team, we were going to jet down and get on a roster down there. But so I was kind of looking at the East Coast. I said, no, I'm going to go East Coast, going to see what happens. Maybe I can squeeze into the A something. But just with COVID, the East Coast was just up in the air. No one even knew if they were going to have a season. These teams could financially, hold on. And actually, Jake McKittick started, we're back and forth. Hey, you find anything? What's going on? And he got contacted by Strasbourg via Jordan Draper, who's Nait alumni as well, and who played here. And I just said, you know what? Nothing's really like happening over here right now. Would you mind just kind of see? And he said they need a D-man. I said, would you mind? And he said, no, I'll see what's happening. And yeah, they came back, a few days later with an offer. Jake's deal kind of fell through with him. He ended up signing with a different team in the same league. But yeah, I just thought, everything's looking really shaky everywhere. Guys are taking pay cuts everywhere. You got really good players that aren't even playing hockey this year. And so I kind of jumped on it and said, you know what, I'll keep my eyes open, ear to the ground if something better pops up. But yeah, I ended up over here, and it's been great. I mean, minus we haven't really been able to play much because of COVID. We kind of started up, and things got put on hold for a few months, and we're just kind of firing things back up again. But yeah, it's been great. It's a great city, and you know, all the French guys, they really try and help out in import, make their way around. So can't really say anything bad about it.
How was your French before moving there?
Oui. I knew some of the just their classic buzzwords, but it hasn't really gotten any better. I mean, I picked up a few bad words, swears in the room, but shouldn't be repeating those. But I'm trying to work on it. I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll be able to speak somewhat of a conversation with some guys, but I don't know. It's a battle, but luckily I usually have a teammate with me that can just do the translating. But
Have you had any like chance, like I know with COVID and everything that puts a bit of a damper on it, have you had any chance to kind of like explore the country, like maybe see Paris, see the Eiffel Tower or anything?
Yeah, I did get to go to Paris. So yeah, my girlfriend moved over here, and my roommate's girlfriend also moved over here, and we had all these extravagant plans because this league, even in a regular year, it's 26 games I think is what we play. So it's not much. It's pretty slack. It's one game a week type thing. So yeah, we were gonna go check some stuff out, but there's been curfew and quite a bit stricter than what Canada's been, even though Canada's starting to kind of ramp up their restrictions. But yeah, we got out to Paris just after Christmas. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, seeing all those monuments, it's kind of takes your breath away almost. Just didn't think I'd ever be here looking at this in person. But yeah, that's been good. And we actually right before Christmas, we were on a pause here, and we snuck away to the Canary Islands for a week. Got some sunshine, so we were lucky to do that before any restrictions got put in. But yeah, now it's pretty much just hunker down in the apartment most of the day, other than practice. So hoping things open up. I've never really got to experience Strasbourg to the full extent. Apparently, it's just an unbelievable city. It's young. They got a few universities. I think it's one of the top exchange universities in the world for students coming in. So hoping to get to see that once the weather warms up a bit.
What's the goal coming out of this season? If like we're assuming that COVID like lessens up, it starts to fall off a little bit, and some leagues start to run more on a standard basis that they have in the years before COVID. What's the plan going forward?
Yeah, I mean, my plan is I'd like to play hockey as long as I can and make a living out of it. I mean, obviously I'm starting in the France 2 league, which I think in a normal year may have been different. We'll never know, but I mean, I would like to get into a top league in the league over here and just see what I can do for X amount of years. I mean, yeah, there's so much up in the air. I know COVID may be on the back burner by the time next season starts, but it's just the financial implications that it's having on some of these leagues and teams. You just don't really know. I know I've heard guys even in the Austrian league, taking 25% pay cuts, stuff like that. So it's affecting a lot of people. But yeah, as far as what I'm hoping will happen is just continually get better and kind of just get into the best league I can and extend my playing time. I want to play a lot of hockey. I feel like I have a lot of hockey left in the body. So yeah, just kind of take it one day at a time and see what happens.
And then just two things we'd like to throw at a lot of guys we interview right at the end. What was the highlight of your career up until this point, and what was the craziest story of your career up until this point?
Ooh, highlight of my career. I mean, there's been so many ups and downs in hockey, but I just always go back to being on that Brandon roster and just being able to play in the final for the Schnelf Cup in WHL. We won I think against Calgary and the Eastern Conference final in Brandon, and just the feeling of winning that Eastern Conference in front of all the fans at home. You know, getting to go up to that trophy, not touching the trophy, and get into that final and playing in front of the Kelowna fans, which no, not home fans, but you got. I think that year there's, you know, guys like Shea Weber and Jordan Tutu in the stands watching games. It was incredible. So I'll always remember that. That was unbelievable. I wish we could have got the job done, but unfortunately came out a bit short. But won't forget that. And just as crazy a story. I mean, there's probably some you know, R-rated stuff I could get into, but I'll keep it clean. I guess my crazy story is just probably going to the Edmonton Oilers, you know, training camp, the rookie camp there, and getting to play with McDavid. And first game, probably 10 minutes into the game, I'm just wheeling around on the ice with, you know, McDavid, Draisaitl, Ethan Bear, and you know, I get a nice little plus because McDavid just goes through about 3 guys and puts one in the back of the net. And thanks, Connor. Just stuff like that. I mean, the chances of playing with that guy, best player in the world, talent wise, it's incredible to watch. And what he's doing now, it's just to look back and think, wow, like I was on the same rink with that guy. I was at the same level as that guy at one point. Like just crazy to think about and kind of put into perspective years past.
You just kind of give him the puck and let him wheel. Hey, you just kind of give him the puck and get out of the way. Hey?
Yeah, you don't even need to give it to him either. It's Hal Gill off the glass and out, and hopefully Connor picks it up going about 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you've done your job. He makes it easy.
Was there any thoughts during or after where it kind of got into your head, like, oh, thank God I wasn't invited out to the Flames camp and had to try and defend that?
Yeah, there was one experience where I actually the same year I did get an invite to the Winnipeg camp, and they ended up going to the same tournament. And basically, I had to choose. I'm just a lifelong Oiler fan. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, just go try for the Oilers. So, anyways, first practice, like I said, just 1,000 cameras in the rink, video. Like first time Connor stepping on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers, basically. And we get probably halfway through practice, and there's a 3-on-2 drill, and McDavid gets it just full speed ahead. And my D partner is Ethan Bear. And luckily, I thank you that he went on Bear's side and just toasted him. and not the fact that he toasted him, like, yeah, okay, that looks bad, but just the finish and just buries the biscuit. And I'm just kind of standing there on the other side, like, thank God he didn't come down my side. And, you know, for a guy like Barry, drafted, obviously now he's in the NHL, it's probably not going to affect him too much, but it comes down to a free agent side and just toast him. That's the end of your day. Probably you're going home. So I was happy that I didn't have to experience that. That was scary how fast that guy skates at you.
Anything else, boys?
Well, in France, you've played a few games in France already. What's the league like there? And, you know, what's kind of the atmosphere in the rink? Just kind of tell us what it's like to play in a league and in a game in France there.
Yeah, so we started the season on time, end of September, start of October type thing, after a bit of, I guess a month past what they usually would do. Usually they start September, but it was awesome. I mean, I had an exhibition game. I think I was here for a few weeks and got into an exhibition game, and went to just a little town, Epinal, and the fans were nuts. There's 4,000 people in there. They got drums going. They got strobe lights. It was unbelievable. I was fired up, and game went really well. Played good. Got on the score sheet, and it's like awesome. Like, this is what I'm looking forward to. And then COVID kind of rinsed us for a little while. My roommate got COVID, so I was cooped up inside with him because I was a contact case. I never got it, but got into a game, or we missed our first league game, unfortunately, because COVID was trapped inside. So I had to watch that one from the couch. But got into our next league game after sitting inside for 2 weeks. And same thing, like it was in a city, Nantes, on the west coast of France, and fans are just crazy. Like they do love their hockey. I know takes a big back burner to like soccer and basketball over here, but yeah, they're crazy. They really enjoy their teams. It's been really cool. Right now we just restarted after 2.5 month break, and we're not doing any fans, so kind of crappy, but just kind of happy to be skating again. I mean, you gotta take the wins where you can. I mean, I know there's people that aren't playing hockey that want to be playing hockey. I'm just feel fortunate that I can actually still be on the ice opposed to some people, especially young kids over in Canada who are trapped inside homeschooling right now. So yeah, it's been great, and hopefully we can get some fans here in the next month when the weather warms up and the vaccine gets rolled out.
It kind of almost reminds you of like a soccer atmosphere in games like that, because I know in Europe they just go nuts.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, like that first game, just the chanting and one guy with a giant drum just hitting a beat and everyone kind of just singing along with it. It was awesome, and I hope we can get back to that soon and see more of it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It was a great chatting with you and hearing some of your stories. Is there anything you want to plug, anywhere people can follow you online?
I don't think so. I mean, Time to Waltz on Instagram, I guess, is my handle there. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. It's great to talk some hockey with you guys.
Yeah. Thanks again. We're going to be following you throughout your career, cheering you on over in France now, and best of luck with the rest of your season.
Yeah, good luck to you guys too.